Okay, good stuff. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. This is episode 5 of Camology, the Cambridge podcast. And this week we have got as my fifth guest, Sam Gomarsall from the Cambridge United Community Trust. How are you, Sam?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. So, Sam, should we just get started? So, do you want to tell people, just give a bit of background on yourself, Sam? So, at the moment, you are head of the Cambridge United Community Trust. So that's where you're at now. But do you want to give people sort of a bit of a background on how you got to where you are today? So a background on your sort of one, that you support the best football team in the world, but sort of how did you get into this position at the Cambridge United Community Trust?
No worries. So grew up near Reading. So was a bit of a Reading FC fan, but not really. More of a part-time Chelsea fan due to my dad kind of forcing me into that, I'm afraid. Then I, interestingly enough, studied philosophy and theology at Oxford University. So that was an unusual maybe route into football and into charity work. But yeah, sorry.
So what made you choose those subjects at Oxford University?
So I was really interested in religion and always have been. My family come from a evangelical Christian background, and so grew up in an environment where religion was a really important feature of my life, and that kind of sparked an interest in wanting to know everything about religion, and particularly Christianity. And within that, I was really interested in the sociology of religion. So for anyone that's interested, particularly a French sociologist called Émile Durkheim, and his views on religion, which is, again, a very interesting route into football. But yeah, that was kind of the reason why I was so interested in religion. And then after university, so at university I played a lot of football, and football's always been a massive part of my life. Played a little bit in the Reading FC youth setup, and then went on to played at university for the Oxford University team. Okay. Now, that was where I met someone called Jez George, who is well known to lots of Cambridge United fans. So playing for the Oxford University team, I played a lot against the Cambridge University team, who Jez happened to manage.
So when was
after university, I had a 1-year job.
So was that back in the? Remind me. So that was Jez was the manager of the university team 10 years ago now, or more than that?
So less than that probably. So I was at university 2013 to 2016, and I know Jez managed the Cambridge University team 2015, 2016, that sort of time. But I worked for Oxford University Sport for a year, kind of running the football side of things at the university. So there's lots and lots of colleges like there is in Cambridge, and I managed the college football team, the college football system, so referees, groundsmen, all that sort of thing, and organised the varsity football match between Oxford and Cambridge, which we held at Barnet FC's ground, interestingly.
Okay. So you just put that into the conversation there. So you had a busy kind of university life. You sort of organised a varsity football game at Barnet. So you are, like you say, football was kind of, I guess, football with an underlay of perhaps the religion as well as being a massive part of your sort of upbringing, really, because you've mentioned So you worked for the range of varsity match.
Yeah, yeah,
And then you
definitely like football.
Sorry, go on, Sam.
Sorry, yeah. No, football's massive to me. Dad played it. My granddad played it. I think I grew up in a very football was just a massive part of every weekend growing up, and as I'm sure it is for many people. And yeah, it was a huge part of my university life as well. It was. I mean, we trained 3 times a week. We were really lucky to have an amazing coach called Mickey Lewis, who had played for Oxford United and was their assistant manager at the time that he was managing our team. And he was absolutely brilliant and really taught me like so much about the game. And yeah, I guess from...
Was that on the football side, or was that sort of on the football side, or sort of a kind of personal mentor?
No, definitely on the football side. So just the way that he treated us like we were the Oxford United team, and yeah, it was just a really good experience to be treated like pros and to have a really top quality coach. And I could definitely see myself going into coaching after I've finished playing. And yeah, I'd love to, like, the lessons that I learned from Mickey, who was the coach, yeah, will definitely stay with me. But yeah, I think we were so fortunate with the opportunities that we were given through being Oxford University football, I guess. And that was how I met Jez. We were both invited to go out to China, both the Oxford University team and the Cambridge University team, in this surreal, bizarre world, which a Chinese university wanted to pay for us to fly out there and play in a tournament that they'd organised. And yeah, that was where I met Jez.
This was the famous China trip. Yeah, so because there was at that stage there was trying to be a link up. Jez was trying to get that sort of link up between Cambridge and China, and is that am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, so I think there was the link was more the university, and the university teams went out there, and Jez happened to be managing their football, the Cambridge University football team at the time, and that was how. So it was maybe more coincidence than the Cambridge United Chinese soccer schools was something slightly different, I think.
Okay. So you graduated in 2016?
Yes. Then I worked for Oxford University Sport for a year, and then through knowing Jez kind of made me aware that about the Cambridge United Community Trust, and so I started work for the trust in 2017.
Okay. So this is the second position you've held in the trust, isn't it?
Yeah. So sort of. I guess I was my title changed slightly. So in the first year I was the business development manager. Then I became the head of operations at the trust, and then when Ben Shetter, who was the community trust CEO before me, stepped down, I then became the trust manager in 2019 in September.
Fantastic. So fairly new to the role, but since when you've taken over to where we find ourselves now, do you want to give, so people that perhaps don't know about the community trust, do you want to give a sort of bit of a background on it? Because although
Absolutely.
It's because it's a separate entity from Cambridge United, isn't it? They're not sort of, it's the kind of charitable arm, if you like, of Cambridge United. Is that correct?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So Cambridge United Community Trust is the official charity, or the charitable arm of the football club. And actually every single football club in the country now professional football club has a registered charity associated with it. And broadly across the board, the aims are relatively similar, which is to use sport and the power of the local football club to make a difference in people's lives in whatever form that takes. So that's kind of across the board what football clubs do in their communities. And then at Cambridge United Community Trust, we have kind of 3 key areas we work in. So that's education, inclusion, and health. And in each of those, what we want to do is use sport and the power of Cambridge United's football club to make a real difference and impact people's lives positively.
Okay, so should we go through those 3 M's? So do you want to give us an outline on the education side of it? Now, I've seen,
yeah, of course.
I've seen, it's quite emotional actually. I saw some of the, before prepping for this podcast, I saw some of the videos, and it's quite emotional stuff, isn't it? You go into schools and, well, I'll let you discuss it, but I thought it was amazing what I saw from the media you've put out from that. So,
thanks. So we use sport as a non-traditional educational tool, and I think like right now is a really good example of. So obviously, right now it's loads of our community activities have shut down due to COVID, and we're not able to go into schools, and yet we've taken some of our work online, and just this afternoon we've released the first of our kind of active science lessons, and I think that's a really helpful kind of way of seeing what we do on education. So our active science program combines science and sport, so we might get year 5s and 6s running around with heart rate monitors on, thanks to which have been provided by AstraZeneca, and that shows them the effect of exercise on their cardiovascular system. And actually, for lots of young people, they wouldn't be interested if you just tell them about the science. But actually, it's by introducing sport and exercise which suddenly gets young people learning about the real intricacies of science. And we also want young people to know that there are careers out there available to them, and actually sport can be that way of them kind of accessing it. So there are lots of sports science degrees, and lots of young people love sport, but maybe they aren't so interested in science. And actually, by combining the two, you get young people learning about science, and we tell them that there are ways of using that in the future.
That's really interesting. You said it right at the beginning there. You said right at the beginning, the non-traditional teaching methods, and it's almost like, to get kids up and about rather than just sitting down, to get kids away from perhaps a teacher just giving them a boring PowerPoint, to make the learning become active, making it become real, and then being able to apply, trying to what you're trying to teach them. I think that's just it's such a.
I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah,
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, another good example would be our match reporting project. So, in partnership with the Cambridge Independent, we go in and we've got a 6-week course about how they might go about writing a match report. So whether that's the Cambridge Independent journalist coming in and showing them how shorthand works. I don't know if you've ever seen shorthand, but it basically looks like another language to me. I've got no idea about it, but kids love it.
My eldest brother used to be a journalist, so when he was doing his journalism course, he showed me all his shorthand. So it does look like hieroglyphics, doesn't it?
Yeah, and then we would take in our media person at the club and show them about and get them taking photos, and we're getting them taking part in mini matches, and then so one half of the class might take part in a mini match, and the other half might write down some notes about what's gone on in the game. And this culminates in them coming to the stadium and writing a match report, and hopefully some of those match reports going in Cambridge Independent. And I think that kind of highlights exactly what we can do and the role that we play, because we're that outside body or outside agency that communicates probably the same messages that teachers are communicating on vocabulary, on careers, but actually by having an outside source and a football club that lots of young people are really interested in coming and doing that, suddenly those kids are listening. And I think that's the role we can play.
So with the work that you're doing, so you're coming in for days at a time and students are coming out. Is it directly linked to their syllabus? As in you are the community trust is fulfilling parts of the student syllabus, or is it this just sort of extra enrichment sort of days?
No, that's a really good question. So I think a good way of explaining this is with the active science program that we run, for example. We've designed that with a real intention to get all of those key learning points in, those key curriculum learning points into the program. So yeah, it fits in really nicely with their curriculum. The other side of this is we receive some funding from the Premier League to run a program called Premier League Primary Stars, and that, well, it's quite a wide-ranging program, but one of those things is we take smaller groups out of the classroom. So maybe it's 6 boys that aren't really engaging in class. Maybe they're a slightly disruptive element of that class. Yeah. And actually, we really use football in a really targeted way to get them using more vocabulary. So, for example, Ashley, our head of education, might give them pictures of 3 players, and they've got to describe those players, and by using Ronaldo, Messi and Neymar, suddenly those young people are engaging in actually the key topics that the teacher was probably trying to teach them anyway, but we're just coming at from it at a slightly different angle.
And I mean, I think once upon a time I was one of those 6 kids that was back in my youth. I was a little so and so, and that's really lovely to hear, because sometimes a teacher can't get through to certain students, and as much as they try, and with the limited perhaps resources that they had, they can only do so much, and it can affect sort of certain students, because they get I guess perhaps you see it there. These certain students would get behind in class, or they may be not, in inverted commas, academically as good as other students, but perhaps perhaps they just go on.
No, I think you're absolutely right, and we also want to kind of teach those wider PSHE lessons that actually help every part of the curriculum. So I really do believe that sports participation has the power to develop respect and inclusion, and it can be a really inspiring tool. And I think we run school sports sessions, so PE in schools, and actually what we're trying to do we want to use sport to kind of develop that respect, which will then help them in their English lessons, where they need to have that respect for their teacher that's trying to help them. So it's this wide-ranging and kind of all-encompassing education that I think that's what we can do, and that's what we try and bring to our schools.
And as you're talking, I feel that you were kind of destined for this role, because basically, you talk about your upbringing, you talk about, you talk about respect, you talk about inclusion. I think perhaps your upbringing, your religious upbringing as well, has perhaps helped you. Perhaps it really informs your role a bit more.
Yeah, well, I think there's so many links between religion and sport, and I think this is all bound up with what community means, and I think the real truth of why I think religion and sport are so interlinked is that actually they both do the same thing. And to bring it back to what I said earlier, one of the reasons why I like this thinker called Emil Durkheim so much is he talks exactly about this, and he says that religion is really society, and society is really religion. And actually, society coming together around one key focus. Now, it happens to be sport for some people, it happens to be religion for other people. Actually, that's what binds us together as society, those small things that we're all really passionate about. And actually, they teach us respect. It teaches us what it means to be inclusive as a society. And I think we're seeing that right now with communities coming together, helping the cause, because right now we're in a real crisis, and you really see what communities are made of and how important it is for communities to be resilient right now.
And unfortunately, I hope none of the listeners have had, been affected directly by the coronavirus. But if one can take a sort of positive out of all of this, it has shown us what we really are, and I think as a society we have sort of stepped up. I think we have recalibrated about what's really important. And the power of community, the power of empathy, the power of love, to your neighbour, if you like, has really come to the fore. I mean, it's.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, we've seen it kind of firsthand. So at the Community Trust, we do holiday lunches for those on free school meals. We would normally be doing them at the stadium. Unfortunately, we couldn't do that. So what we've done is we've worked with Cambridge Sustainable Food to cook and deliver those meals out into our community. And kind of the key areas for us are Abbey, North Cambridge, so Arbury, King's Hedges, and also Trumpington Meadows as well. And those, we've been overwhelmed by the amount of volunteers that we've had, the amount of people saying, can we give you some food? I mean, a really amazing example is, given that we're talking about Cambridge United, the Pipasha restaurant across the road from the Abbey Stadium rang me up yesterday and said, we'd love to help. Can we donate 60 odd meals? And those meals will be then going to those families that right now, actually, it's a real stretch for them, and they may be self-isolating, and they may be having to kind of come up with stuff for their own kids to do. So that's where our kind of education and activity packs are coming in helpful. But yeah, we've been overwhelmed by the amount of support that we've had for our COVID responses.
I mean, that's 60 meals. I mean, for a small, I know the restaurant, it's not the biggest, and for them to donate 60 meals, that's one hell of a gesture, isn't it? I mean,
so I think, but I think it's brilliant from Passion. I'm really happy that they've done that. It's actually though people in the local community, so you can ring them up and you can buy a meal, but you can also donate a meal, if that makes sense. So it's people in the local community donating meals, and I know they've cooked some for the NHS and they've cooked some for Jimmy's night shelter already. So it just kind of proves your point that actually people are coming together at this time.
Yeah, it's sorry. So correct me if I'm wrong. Did I see our esteemed leader Mark Bonner delivering some of those meals? Was that?
So I don't think he was delivering the meals, but he has been amazing in this, and we've got a community care line set up right now for over 70s to ring up and have a chat, and he volunteered to be on that care line, so people could ring up and book in their medication to be delivered by one of our team, or groceries to be delivered. But Mark also has been bringing season ticket holders over the age of 64, which we just wanted to check in on them and see if they're all right, because look, it can be a really lonely time right now, especially if you're self-isolating or feel at risk. So we just want to make sure that we're, just as our season ticket holders have been there for us for the last however many years, we want to make sure that we're here for them right now.
Did Mark Bonner end up just answering football questions about, or any transfer news? Was that?
I don't know, actually. I did speak to him a little bit about it, and I think he got some calls like that, but he also got some really good calls that actually it was really helpful for him to be there and for him to talk to those people.
And do you mind me asking, have you been perhaps football players in the recent weeks have got sort of a bit of a bad press, but have you been there for any of Cambridge's players, because they've gone from being a tight knit group, training 5 days a week, to isolating? I mean, have you been there for any of the players? I mean, how are the players getting on?
No, I think it's such an important point, and over the last kind of 3 years, we've tried to put in place steps that will help us become a kind of mentally healthy football club. And so all of our academy coaches and all of our first team staff have been through mental health first aid training, and actually that's becoming really evident why that's necessary right now. And I know that they speak every day, and they're giving them kind of fitness stuff to do, and they're making sure that the players are looked after on a mental health side and a physical health side. And I think we're really seeing as a society how important and how linked physical health and mental health are right now, in a time where so many are alone.
And I think it's great, because 5-10 years ago you couldn't talk about mental health. You just couldn't, because it's just the taboo. But I mean, do you want to talk more about sort of when our Prince William came to the Abbey? Were you involved with that, and the on the mental health side? Were you?
So I wasn't there on the day, but yeah. So Prince William came to the Abbey, and that was amazing. And I think that was partly in recognition of our Mind Your Head program. So Mind Your Head is a 6-week mental health education program in secondary schools, designed to destigmatize mental illness, to foster positive well-being amongst students, and also to give them some really clear, practical, pragmatic steps that they can take to reduce their stress and to improve their resilience. And so, we were obviously delighted to have Prince William come to the Abbey, and I don't know if you had a chance to watch that program. But
I watched it about 5 times. It was just I know I should have been concentrating on the content, but it was just nice to see the Abbey on BBC. It was brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it, and I thought it was brilliant. And to see I actually thought the most interesting one was Peter Crouch. I thought the way that he spoke about actually the effect of the kind of often light-hearted abuse that he'd had about his height, or actually sometimes quite mean-spirited abuse about his height, that the effect that had on his mental health and on his family. And I think that's something that we maybe don't think about too much, because we have these images of professional, particularly the top-end professional footballers, as well, they earn so much money and they must have it amazingly. And I think that kind of shows that whatever your situation is, whatever, however much you earn, you're still going to have issues, and you're still going to have struggles that you need to work through. And that's why it's so important that we get this message out there about mental health, and why often those sorts of people, Prince William, Jermaine Genius, Peter Crouch, Thierry Henry, they're actually the best messengers of this message.
Yeah, too right. And because my lasting memory of that program is it was very real, wasn't it? There wasn't, Peter Crouch was talking, Prince William was talking, and there was there wasn't a lot of fluff within that. Everybody was, well, they were talking from a really vulnerable place, which allowed people, I guess, watching that I think to see that being vulnerable about your mental health isn't a bad thing anymore. That's what I took away from that program.
I think you're absolutely right, and that is in a way what our mental health program in secondary schools is trying to do, is really take that idea of take ideas that we might have of mental health and say, actually, emotion is so important in this, and actually talking about our mental health and talking about the potential struggles that we might have. Everyone has struggles, and actually by talking about it, that's the way that we can start to combat.
Because I guess kids, I'm sounding like an old man now, but I guess when we were growing up in school, social medias, mobile phones weren't a thing, and I think that, I mean, do you find that with social media and kids having phones on them, that can lead into mental health struggles or feeds into like inadequacies that some of the kids might have? Do you see that on the ground?
Yeah, definitely. We have 6 lessons, and one of them is entirely focused on social media. And I think the key point here, right, is that everyone just portrays their best version of themselves on social media. And so if everyone thinks that that's what everyone else is, and because it's so easy to get lost in that world, and I think you're lying to yourself if you don't. Like, no one's going to put out a picture of them, I don't know, eating 3 lots of Ben and Jerry's. Not that I do that.
We've all done it. We've all got binged on some rubbish box set on Netflix and done a Ben and Jerry's without even thinking.
But not many people put that out on social media, and actually that's the real danger, isn't it? That the young people get confused, and well, actually any person, not just young people, get confused, and we think that what people are putting out on their social media is real life, day in, day out for them. And that's the key point here, is actually social media isn't a bad thing in and of itself. And right now we're seeing how positive social media can be, because it's keeping people connected that otherwise wouldn't be connected. And so social media is not a bad thing in and of itself. It's just recognizing that there's a balance here, and actually social media can be incredibly harmful at the same time.
Yeah. And then, so you say you take the student through 6 lessons. So 1 lesson being on social media. What other subjects do you take them through with it regarding their mental health?
Within the Mind Your Head program?
Yes, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, so it'll be things like developing resilience, the basics behind mindfulness. So mindfulness is the way that actually we can slow down in a really busy world, and we take them through some really simple steps about how they may start that process. We give them key ideas about dealing with stress. We take them through the basics of mental illness and how that's different to mental health. And actually, it's really important to destigmatize that and create a world where people feel open about speaking about their mental ill health.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's some of those things, and in all of that we have the brand of Cambridge United throughout. So we have video content from the first team players, and then we occasionally have the first team players come and visit the sessions as well. And I think that can be really profound for young people, because they're lots of people's idols, and by them opening up about their emotions, it maybe encourages the young people to open up about their own emotions.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't Gary Deegan and Fordy come into schools, or has there been more players?
Yeah, so we we had David and Gary speak about mental health on last year's Time to Talk Day, speaking about kind of pressures of being a professional footballer, and we utilise some of that video content in our lessons.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So, so you before the coronavirus hit, you were still running those Mind Your Head programs in schools?
Yeah. So over the past 3 years, we've engaged with 2,500 young people through that, and again in that we're really fortunate that we've been mentioned in an all-party parliamentary report on mental health in schools, and that kind of helped us raise the profile of Mind Your Head. And then really fortunately again, we won the EFL League 2 Community Project of the Year for the Mind Your Head programme, and we're really delighted that we received that recognition. But go on.
Can you repeat that? You said Cambridge United won something for once, so can you just repeat what? We're not going to win many football games, but repeat what we just won. Sorry.
So that was the League 2 Community Project of the Year. So across every football club has a community, a club community organisation, whether they're called a community trust or a foundation, and there's lots of different projects going on, and we were recognised as the Community Project of the Year. So yeah, it is a rare occasion where Cambridge United win something, but hopefully first of many trophies.
Too right. I mean, that's just. I assume you're really proud of that, because that is. I mean, it's fantastic. It really is.
Yeah, we were unbelievably. We were unbelievably proud of the award, and so much credit must go to Daz Coakley, who runs the programme. He's our mental health officer, and also Ben Shretter, who was the previous CEO who helped design and develop the programme, and really kind of kick-started what it means to kind of put in place things that help us be a mentally healthy football club, alongside, of course, the support that we received from some funders, including some of those that were on the board of directors at the football club.
And so where are you now on the Cambridge United Community Trust now at the moment? I mean, are you is sort of funding up in the air, or how are you? I mean, how is the Community Trust dealing with the existing crisis? I mean,
yeah. So whilst many of our community activities have stopped, so for example, we're not running any of our disability sports sessions right now. What we are doing is taking those online. So we've got lots of our education work has gone online through videos, whether that's Neil Robertson, snooker player, helping us teach young people about fractions, or AstraZeneca's Active Science program going online, to Phil Mullen, our disability sport coach, having Zoom calls with our many disability sport groups and our weight management group. So we have a weight management program, which obese men can come to. They weigh themselves and then play football, and through that they've got a bit of a community of people that all want to lose weight, and so it's really important right now to keep that community going. So we're doing lots of the things that we would do usually in a slightly different way, and then we're also doing some different things. So as I've already mentioned about the meals that we're providing for our to families in need, but also we've got this care line open, which people over the age of 70 can ring up, or those at risk, or those self-isolating can ring up, and we can get medication and basic groceries out to those people, or just have a friendly chat with them, really.
Okay, and are you looking for more volunteers with all these programs? I mean, again, if people are listening, can they sort of get in touch? How can they help at this time?
Yeah, so definitely. So volunteers would be fantastic in helping us deliver medication and groceries. I'd also encourage anyone to volunteer for the NHS who are doing that on a more national scale. And I think we talked earlier about the way that communities have come together and the way that societies come together to support the NHS. I think is so important right now. But yeah, these are really unprecedented times, and it's been great to see everyone come together to play its part in helping our community through this.
Certainly has. So I think we've pretty much come to the end now, Sam. So do you want to give sort of any ways, so just to sort of sign off, about how people can sort of get hold of you, where they can find out more information on the community trust? Do you want to?
Yeah, of course. So our social media is on every single platform is at CUC Trust, and be great to have some more followers on there and to help us raise awareness. And our website is www.cuctrust.co.uk, and all the information about how to contact us, how you can support by volunteering, how you can support financially is on there, and we'd be delighted to hear from anyone really.
Cool. Nice one, Sam. Well, thank you very much for your time, mate.
No worries at all.
I'm sort of blown away by, because full disclosure, I'm one of those sad people that watches Cambridge United.
Sorry to hear that.
I know it's an affliction that's I can't get away from. But so my kind of focus has always been sort of towards the football side, and but it's great that you share with what Cambridge United. It's not just about 11 men on a pitch on a Saturday. How much the community trust in line with the football clubs does for the community. So thank you very much, Sam. I really appreciate your time, mate. And hopefully we'll see you on the terraces very soon.
Thanks very much for having me.
See you now. See you. Bye bye.